Coming up, Tzu Chi provides relief supplies to help a Thai monastery in Nepal. And we meet a mother who rekindled the bond between her and her son in the wake of Taiwan's Kaohsiung gas explosions. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Mary Lee. Thank you for joining us. The two recent massive earthquakes in Nepal damaged a Thai monastery in Kathmandu. In spite of the temple's damage, its abbots had taken in more than 70 displaced quake victims. However, providing food for everyone has been difficult. Thankfully, Tzu Chi learned of their hardship and delivered much-needed supplies to the monastery.
After a second massive earthquake struck Nepal on May 12th, Tzu Chi disaster relief and medical team continued to visit quake victims in the evening. Tzu Chi volunteers came to assess the damage of a Thai monastery, Muni Vihar. Tzu Chi volunteers visited Muni Vihar again on the following day because the massive earthquakes have damaged this 500-year-old temple.
Huge cracks have appeared on the temple walls after the quakes, and I can even place my arm into the cracks.
Besides the temple, nearby houses have also been damaged.
My home has collapsed, and I have no place to live, so I can only stay here.
Master Vipassi has provided shelter to over 70 earthquake victims in spite of his own hardship.
They have no proper place to keep them. They are feeling serious problem of the earthquake of yesterday.
The temple almost ran out of food, as there is a total of 200 monastic disciples and earthquake victims. Then the blue and white clad angels came with the needed supplies.
We hope these Buddhist masters will help pass out the rice, oil, and beans to the earthquake victims.
I have no place to live and no food. Thank you, Tzu Chi, for providing food for us.
Tzu Chi volunteers bow to the Buddha at this Thai monastery in the Buddha's birthplace, as they relieve the suffering of the people here with their sincere hearts.
Staying in Nepal, Tzu Chi disaster relief and medical team provided quake survivors with not only medical assistance, but also emotional support, as caring for the heart is just as important as taking care of physical wounds. Let's take a look at what the volunteers have been doing in Nepal to cheer up survivors in the aftermath of the disaster. Rallying quake survivers, Tzu Chi volunteer Huang Fu Chuan does his best to cheer them up. With the help of a translator, Huang tells the quake survivors that they are just like family to him. He hopes everyone can pray together for a world free from further disasters.
We have felt the devastation here one after another. The Master taught us to tread carefully, especially when we are serving others. As the Master's disciples, we have heeded her call.
Local residents have felt the efforts and heart that Tzu Chi volunteers have put into caring for them throughout the days.
Yes, I'm too much scared. Yeah, I cried also, and I can't stay. But while we came here, we feel like we are safe, because at least you are there. You will provide us service, so thank you so much.
A number of young volunteers composed the song in gratitude for all that Tzu Chi has done for the quake survivors.
We are there, for a little help of the world. We are
Meanwhile, during a Tzu Chi free clinic, after considering an elder lady's condition and age, pharmacist Chai Pei-shan decided to accompany the senior home to make sure she is safe. The senior then invites Chai into her temporary shelter, and Chai uses this time to further understand what the senior may need.
They especially ask me how long Tzu Chi is staying around. I think our purpose here is to give them a sense of security and love.
The next day, an orthopedic doctor pays the senior a visit to check on her broken hand.
Since the earthquake, the lung displaced
Worried about other quake survivors' emotional well-being after experiencing such a traumatic event, volunteers visit them and led them in a few interactive games. Tzu Chi's effort has finally paid off as residents laugh and truly enjoy themselves, temporarily forgetting their condition and remembering what life can be like once more. We have more reports on Nepal. After the second earthquake struck on May 12th, Tzu Chi disaster relief and medical team immediately got back into caring for the injured as well as calming anxious hearts.
2 buildings in Bhaktapur city collapsed following the massive earthquake, and dust filled the air.
So where are their families? Our families are at work.
This mother ran for her life with her child and broke into tears. Tzu Chi volunteers brought another panicking woman into the medical station in Bhaktapur's tent area. This old man injured his arm while escaping, and Dr. Huang Mengren dressed his wound. This old woman's arm was crushed by collapsing building debris. This old man has a 6-centimeter foot tear wound, so Dr. Ye Tianhao immediately stitched up his wound, giving him a local anesthetic.
在那个余震当中，他脚就受伤。
His foot was cut during the aftershocks. As the wound was covered with dirt, we cleansed it and stitched it up.
清洗干净，赶快把它缝起来。
The soldier also brought a patient here, and the medical team members immediately treated her.
他们吓坏了，然后由他们
She was terrified and the soldier brought her here.
把他们带下来。
The 80-year-old woman shivered with fear. The volunteers calmed her as the doctor treated her. These earthquake survivors hug each other and are grateful for being safe. As Nepalese struggle to recover from the devastating earthquakes, Tzu Chi volunteers have continued to provide them with much-needed love and care. Inside the tent area, Tima Dr. Chen Ziyong and 2 nurses are removing the dead tissues of a paralyzed girl named Chandia. Her serious bed sores have attracted flies. While the medical personnel change her wound dressing, it rained. Despite the patient's wet and dirty condition, they hurried to move her onto the folding bed.
Fortunately, we have the folding bed. We usually sit on the folding bed or ask the patients to lie on the bed during emergency treatment. But on this occasion, this bed saved a little girl.
It's okay.
Another Tima doctor bumped into a patient on his way to visit patients in a disaster area. Upon seeing the feeble old woman, Dr. Zheng Shunxian checked her pulse.
电解质的一个补充液，我们用粉状，我们赶快就也有
We dissolved the electrolyte replenisher in water and let the grandma drink it.
补充药粉，泡在水里面，给老婆婆喝。
As saving lives is the mission of these medical personnel, they will continue to race against time to care for more needy people in Nepal.
Tzu Chi's assistance to quake survivors over the past 17 days has moved many local residents to contribute themselves. At the Bhaktapur tent communities, Raj Kumar has taken it upon himself to coordinate matters big or small at the tent site, as well as recruit cash for work participants on behalf of Tzu Chi. Kumar says, seeing how the quake devastated the lives of his countrymen, he has made it his mission to restore hope to his countrymen and this land.
Wherever help is needed at the Bhaktapur tent communities, Raj Kumar will be there. Apart from listening to each of the quake survivors' needs, he is just like a leader of this camp, making it his mission to help these residents find a way out of their plight.
After the earthquake, residents here were devastated and very distraught. So I'm stepping up and leading residents to help those affected by the quake. I want to help them find a way out of hardship.
Raj is a brick tile factory owner, and he too lost his relatives during the quake. Not only has he made a point of helping his own people, but he is also Tzu Chi volunteers' right-hand man.
Initially, he came up to us and asked what Tzu Chi volunteers were doing in these 10 communities. In the course of 1 week of interacting with us, he gradually understood the work that we are doing.
It was Raj who managed to recruit so many young people to join Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program. Those who can speak English act as translators between residents and volunteers, while others assist with other tasks. Where language barriers exist, Raj has helped bridge the gap between volunteers and residents.
A student of Sanxing High School of Commerce and Home Economics in Kaohsiung, Taiwan, Wu Zhixuan, was on his way back home after visiting a night market on the evening of July 31st, 2014, when gas explosions occurred. Fortunately, he survived, but 40% of his body suffered burn injuries. As his parents had long divorced and his father disappeared, Wu was raised by his paternal grandparents. But since he didn't get along with them, it was his estranged remarried mother who had moved to Zhanghua that came back to care for him. Though this meant quitting her job and traveling back and forth between Zhanghua and Kaohsiung, Wu's mom took on the challenges gladly and fully demonstrated the boundless love of a mother.
It was about 1:30 in the middle of the night that I received a call from my eldest son. He said, "Mom, something terrible happened to Zhixuan." When I hung up the phone, I was really anxious, but at the same time had a hard time accepting what had happened. When I came back to Kaohsiung, I saw him all wrapped up like a mummy. There was just this sense of remorse and guilt. I thought perhaps if things hadn't turned out the way they had, if I hadn't left, then perhaps nothing like this would have happened.
My dear mother, thank you for traveling back and forth in order to look after me while I was injured. And thank you for visiting temples on my behalf.
I still have a daughter, so I had to go back to Erling at least once a week. I could only travel back and forth. There was a type of shuttle service that would pick you up and drop you off. It was cheaper, but would make frequent stops. That was what I took. When he was at the Chang'e Memorial Hospital, his jaundice started acting up, so doctors couldn't give him the best ointment for treating burns. He could only use those suitable for Favazan patients. When I saw him having nightmares as he slept, I took his clothes to a temple I frequented to have them blessed. The minister there told me to recite the Heart Sutra to a bottle of water and then have him drink the water. I believe a total of 12 bottles were used.
When I was in pain, you endured my foul temper. I didn't know how to speak kind words and could only act like a clown to cheer you up.
Because we are not well off, well hospitalized, as he couldn't speak because of his tracheotomy, he wrote to me and reminded me to apply for state compensation. I said I didn't need any of that. The only thing I wanted was for him to make a full recovery quickly. He is a really sweet child. When he saw me like that, since he couldn't console me, he just put his hand up next to my face to comfort me.
Mother's Day is here. I will be sure to take good care of myself, so you don't have to worry about me. I wish you good health and happiness every day. Your beloved son, Zhixuan.
As long as you're happy, healthy, that's all I can ask for.
Tzu Chi volunteers in the United States and Canada organized Buddha Day ceremonies in their respective countries. Whether it was a grand celebration or a simple ceremony, members of the public came together to commemorate the Buddha's virtues and cleanse their hearts of afflictions.
There is no
Tzu Chi volunteers from the Dayton Liaison Office, Ohio, are holding a Buddha Day and Thanksgiving event at the Young Women's Christian Association in Dayton for its female residents and their children. Tzu Chi volunteers have cared for these women who are survivors of rape or domestic violence for the past 5 years, but this is the first time they have introduced a Buddhist ceremony to these Christian women. A girl presents her mother with carnations to express her gratitude.
I love them both and they're my world. Don't know what I'd do without them.
Happy Mother's Day.
Here in San Jose, California, participants come together in prayer for victims of the Nepal quake, while diplomatic officers express their longing for their families.
我们是从事外交工作。
As diplomats, we work all over the world and we don't get to spend a lot of time with our parents or live with them. Attending the event today, I truly felt the grace of the Buddha, our parents, and all sentient beings.
感受到佛恩、父母恩，还有众生恩啊。
Been coming from worldwide, non-profits coming in, foundations, governments, a lot of people coming together to help the people of Nepal. So we would definitely want to take this moment to thank everybody.
The Buddha Day ceremony at the Tzu Chi, New Jersey chapter was attended by seniors who came all the way from Philadelphia. The ceremony was followed by a charity bazaar where eco-friendly soap, enzymes and various vegetarian foods were on sale. Tzu Chi volunteers in Phoenix marked the occasion with a simple yet solemn ceremony, praying for peace in the world and immersing themselves in the Buddha's Dharma and grace. Following the inauguration of the Texas Jingsi Hall last year, volunteers held their first Buddha Day ceremony at the newly established venue. The statue of the Enlightened One and the elegant flowers brought out the dignity of the event. To ensure the event is executed smoothly, volunteers put their thought and effort into the planning and set aside time to rehearse. Apart from community residents, Tzu Chi Academy students and their parents also attended the event. Although Dallas was under a severe thunderstorm warning, volunteers still managed to carry out a successful event. Despite the poor weather, many members of the public still made it a point of attending the ceremony.
我们特地回来，而且宝宝能够参加浴佛，我觉得对他是一件非常好的事情。我们很感动，很感动，宝宝也很感动，对吗？
Here in Seattle, the small and intimate ceremony is infused with solemnity and grace. Members of the Chinese community also acknowledged all the work Tzu Chi has done to benefit society.
Tzu Chi volunteers have been promoting many educational projects here, and it has, without a doubt, brought harmony to society and encouraged many people to practice charitable giving.
Another participant also brought his wife along to the event, saying that it is the best Mother's Day gift for her.
We've been here several times before, and we really enjoy coming here. My wife enjoys it a lot, so this is sort of our Mother's Day gift to her.
In addition, Tzu Chi Academy students also showcased their talents through various performances, while some participants brought the savings from their bamboo coin banks to donate to Tzu Chi. Here in Toronto, Canada, Tzu Chi volunteers held a ceremony simultaneously with Tzu Chi's headquarters in Hualien, Taiwan. Tzu Chi volunteers and Tzu Chings move in unison and with utmost sincerity to present a beautiful ceremony. Although Taiwan and Canada are half a world away, in this moment there is zero distance, as participants in both countries come together as one to honor the Enlightened One.
To aid quake survivors in Nepal get a better night's sleep, on May 13th, Tzu Chi shipped out 5 containers filled with Tzu Chi's folding bed from Shanghai, China. In order to make sure the beds would be shipped out on time, the factory worked endlessly for 13 days. Making sure to meet their ship at the Shanghai harbor, the workers of the factory making Tzu Chi's folding bed is working overtime to make sure all the beds are packed securely and loaded onto the container.
It's already a difficult situation, yet they are sleeping on floors. I can't bear it. so we're rushing to send them the beds.
Each 40-feet container can hold up to 504 Tzu Chi's folding bed. In total, 5 containers filled with 2,520 beds combined will leave from Shanghai, China, and head to a shipping harbor in India, then transported to Kathmandu's hard-hit quake zone by freight trucks. The entire journey will take up to half a month. Short on time to produce so many beds from the time the order placement came, the manufacturer decided to allocate the beds heading to Mozambique to first go to Nepal.
Originally, we had 2 containers going to Mozambique, but those were prioritized to Nepal. Then we hurried to manufacture the rest of the amount. Otherwise, we couldn't make the deadline. We spent 13 days to make sure the other 3 container amounts were met.
With these beds on the way, it is hoped that quake survivors will soon have a good night's sleep. After receiving permission from the government, Tzu Chi volunteers in Singapore hit the streets to canvass for donations on behalf of quake victims in Nepal. Hopefully, all would donate to help the less fortunate. After receiving permission from the Singapore government, local Tzu Chi volunteers mobilized to begin their donation drive to help Nepal's quake survivors. Holding a meeting and making posters and donation boxes, volunteers are quick to help.
If we are unable to travel there to help, then the least we can do is do our share here in our country.
Whenever a disaster strikes, Tzu Chi is always the first to act. I had some time, so I came to help.
In support, staff members of the Tzu Chi chapter also donated their bamboo coin banks. Meanwhile, volunteers hit the streets with their donation boxes.
They are filled with honesty, sincerity, and humbleness. They are very down to earth.
No matter what faith people believe in, we're all the same. If someone is having problems, we should help them.
Wendy, who experienced a massive earthquake in New Zealand, knows how the quake survivors must be feeling.
The buildings in New Zealand were much more stable than they are in Nepal, so I can't imagine how they'd be feeling.
At the Free Clinic Center, many patients also take action to express their empathy.
People who are going through so much of pain in no homes and all those things. It goes 2 ways, not 1 way. Everything goes 2 ways.
We need to count our blessings and spread our love to those who need a little bit of warmth.
If everyone donates a little, it all adds up.
Tzu Chi volunteers throughout Singapore held donation drives from morning to night. And though this fundraising may end, the love that Tzu Chi has for Nepal will never end. At the end of the show, we joined Tzu Ching's and Tzu Chi volunteers from Tainan, Taiwan, where they spent some time with the elderly in nursing homes to help residents celebrate Mother's Day. That's all the time we have for today's program. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.